Hi, everyone. I hope we are well. So, the reason that we haven't started is because I understand that there are a number of people who are trying to join, and for whatever reason, they are not being able to join. So, I'm just trying to sort that out in the background with Nicholas, and then we'll get started. So, please just give me a couple minutes. Let's see if we can sort it out for those people who are still trying to join. Okay, thank you. Okay, so thanks, Nicholas. Some people are re-registering to join. So what I was thinking that we could do, just to give them a bit of time, I would love to find out a little more about the people who are currently online. And so um, I saw one person said, hi, they're from Gambia. Anybody else? Ooh, okay, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria. It would be great for you to keep putting where you're calling from or where you're tuning in from. Even if it's inside Ghana, you can let us know. But hi, Mariam. Hi, Daniel. Um, okay, Samuel, Amadu, Godsway from Ghana, Godfred from Ghana, Nicholas also from Ghana, Malang, Gambia, Lesotho. Wow. I was in South Africa last week, in Randburg, which I think is a part of Johannesburg. I was talking at a conference there last week. So hello, Amos from Malawi, and Evans and Edmund. Another person from Gambia. Awesome. Herbert, welcome. And let's see. Wow. I'm loving this. Gambia, Sierra Leone, Ghana. Okay. All right. Excellent. So while you are telling me Zimbabwe, Zambia, while you are doing that, I have another question for you. I would love to know how many of you, okay, let me see if I can do something to make it interesting. I don't see it. Okay, so I was going to ask how many of you are using AI in your daily basis? So on a daily basis, um, I would love, so what I want you to type in the chat is not just yes or no. I want to know what is the AI tool that you use the most? So is it ChatGPT or is it something else? So if you can drop that in the chat, I want to see kind of what you guys are using. I'm seeing ChatGPT. Okay, Copilot, Perplexity. All right. Chat, Copilot, Gemini, Chat, Gemini, Copilot, DeepSeek. Okay. Chat. SciSpace. I do not know that one. Black Box. All right. I am learning some new things today. Tab9. I don't know that one. All right. ChatGPT. Well, that's good. Anybody who just joined, I'm asking everybody to let me know what they use, but in terms of AI on a daily basis. Okay, Otter AI, Perplexity, Chat, Claude. Finally, somebody who uses Claude along with me. Good. Gemini, Lovable, yes. I love Lovable, Samuel. Okay, Meta, Chat, Copilot, Gemini, DeepSeek. Ah, okay. Thanks, Louisa. Tab 9 helps in coding. Okay, awesome. You should try Claude as well. Claude is very good with coding. Otter, Humanize AI. Okay, Grok. I haven't personally used Grok, but I know about it. Oh, that's very interesting, Quillbot. Okay. Um, Nicholas, I want you to kind of let me know when we can start based on how much time you think we should give the people that are trying to join. Okay, so Amadou is asking what is more efficient for research? My go-to for research, and my husband also uses that as a researcher. He's an engineer and does a lot of research, but Perplexity. And so we haven't officially started yet, but for me, I have three go-to tools. I have ChatGPT, and I tend to use ChatGPT for like the more creative, fluffy things. Then I use Claude, and Claude is more, I find Claude to be like a bit less creative and bubbly. If ChatGPT was a person, that person would be very bubbly and outgoing. Claude is kind of more middle of the road, but Claude is very good for if you use Excel or Google Sheets, anything with formulas, if you like creating dashboards, anything with coding. Claude is actually really good with helping you to code. Then on the research side, Perplexity is my go-to. The reason it is my go-to AI tool is that Perplexity it references everything that it gives you. So if you need to do research, you will see exactly where it pulled every article, every paper, everything from. And if you understand how AI works, you will realize that AI can be prone to errors, and it can give you information that sounds like it's complete fact, when in reality it's a complete lie. And so that ability for AI to tell you something that sounds true but is not true, that's what they call hallucinations in AI. So Perplexity is, I would say, lowest on the scale of hallucination, and ChatGPT is highest on the scale of hallucination because it's so creative that it creatively makes up things. And Claude is in the middle. It hallucinates as well, but not as much. So I would definitely say, sure, I would definitely say Perplexity if you're doing research. Check it out. And all of these are free, but be very careful what you're doing with the free versions. All right. So it is 6:11. And if I will plead with you for us to give the people 3 more minutes, and then we'll start at 6:15. But I'll make up the time so that I don't keep everybody too late. So if there's another question that you have, you can drop it in the chat and I'll answer it in the meantime. So I also see Coursera, okay, Quillbot, okay, Meta, yeah. So Lovable. So I just started using Lovable maybe a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure if you guys know what Lovable is, but for those of you who don't, Lovable is this amazing tool that allows you to develop essentially a website on your own, without needing a full stack developer. So you can basically develop a whole front end, and you can develop it with drop-down lists and all kinds of functionality all on your own. I did that. I'm living proof. I did that over the last few weeks. And you can attach it to a database and everything. And I'll explain that a bit more. But Okay, I'll answer this question in a second. But yeah, so yeah, and those are some of the things that we're going to talk about today, just how AI is really changing the landscape and allowing people who never had certain kinds of backgrounds to be able to now do what other people have been learning for years and years and years. And so for me, I am really, really excited about it because I think it makes all of us equal. And it doesn't matter where we're from or what we've learned or what we've studied. Suddenly, there are tools that give all of us the exact same skills at the exact same time. So somebody says, Samuel, what research field am I in? And what field do you specialize in using such tools? Um, it's, if I get your question, okay, let me pause on Samuel's question and then just come back to, let me do Isaac. So Isaac is asking about Otter AI. What I know of Otter AI is it's like a meeting tool, a transcription tool. I do have a go-to as well. So, okay, it's not 3 in my toolkit, it's actually 4. For meetings and recordings, my favorite one that I have found hands down is wonderful is called fireflies.ai. And that one is really, really good because what Fireflies does, it can both record a live meeting while you're in it, or you can actually take the transcript of a meeting, like a meeting recording, and upload it to Fireflies, and it will transcribe it for you. It will give you highlights of the meeting. So it will give you a high level summary, then it will give you a more detailed highlights. And then it actually allows you as well to, for example, um, just earlier this week, no, last week I was working on something and I uploaded it to Fireflies. And then there was a point that I wanted to have it summarized, but I only wanted it to summarize one section in like a 2-hour transcript. So I was able to say from, I think, like minute 45 to minute 50, give me a summary of just that section, and the AI was able to do that. So I love Fireflies. I would like to assume that Otter may do some of that, but based on everybody I know and those that use it really or use these tools very heavily, Fireflies is kind of one of the top ones. So I recommend Fireflies. So Fireflies, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. Okay, and then I'll come back to Samuel and Bing. I don't really use Bing. I don't know. I've never gotten into Bing, to be very honest. I don't know whether it's good or bad. It could be really good. I've just never gone there. So I can't really say about Bing. But for those that asked about research, and if you're in the academic space as a student or a researcher, Perplexity should be your go-to for that one. Let's dial down ChatGPT and focus more on Perplexity. So I personally am not in any particular research field now. Now I work in the AI space, but when I did my PhD last year, how I wished I had Perplexity when I was doing my thesis, but I didn't. Um, so yes. All right. So we're gonna get started, and then I think um, okay, yeah. So we'll get started and then we'll go through. And if you guys have, I'll get through. When we get to the end, then I'll take questions and then we take it from there. But thank you all so, so much for taking the time out of your busy evenings to join. And I hope you find this very, very useful. So let's do this. Okay. Share the screen. All right. So I think everybody can see the screen. Can somebody be kind enough to just give me a thumbs up to let me know that they can see? Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Awesome. Okay, so we'll get started and we'll take it from here. So the topic for today is called Bridging the Skills Gap. How can you stay relevant in the AI era? The original flyer that went out was how can young people stay relevant in the AI era? But honestly, I would say it applies to everyone, not just people who are young. So I'm largely going to take it from the point of view of anybody who is entering into the workspace or currently in the workspace and needs to figure themselves out. All right. So I'll share a number of insights as we go along. And the first insight that I want to share that I think everybody needs to be aware of is, as much as there's a lot of hype around AI, AI actually is not new. And it's really, really important. It goes back for decades and decades. And the term AI was actually coined back in the 1950s, 1960s, and it has evolved over time where we see that it has, made its way into like self-driving cars and then made its way into machine learning. What changed that made everybody suddenly wake up to AI was when ChatGPT came along in 2022. And we now had generative AI where you could engage with AI. Suddenly, anybody could engage with AI, not only people who were in these tech companies or people who were rich and very privileged. It just became a thing for all of us. And that is what has transformed the way everybody is talking about and interacting with AI. So what is it? AI, short for artificial intelligence, really is anything, it is enabling machines to do things that humans would typically have done in the past. That's what it is. So it is mimicking human intelligence. That's it in its simplest form. Now, there are three types of AI that I would like everybody on this call to be aware of. And it's initially when I had done this slide a while back, at first it was like the evolution of AI, but all of these kinds of AI still exist and are still relevant in different scenarios. So the first is what most people know, predictive AI. Predictive AI is about recognizing patterns and based on those patterns, then saying that something is likely to happen. So think of the weather forecaster that you see on the screen. The weather forecaster is able to say, based on how the weather has been in Ghana for the last 50 years or 60 years, we know that the rainy season will be from this month to this month. And we know that the weather, the temperature will be this much to this much. So it looks at patterns. Now, the next kind is what they call generative AI. And that's where the ChatGPT comes in. Now, with generative AI, it is less about looking at patterns and saying, based on A, then B and C is likely to happen. With generative AI, what happens is that it's about creating, it's about generating. So that's where the name has come from, generative AI. And so it's about saying, I want to create, I want to write. It could be an email, a story, a poem, you name it. But you prompt the AI and then it generates the information for you. Some things in seconds, some things in minutes, but it's about generating based on what you ask it to. Now, where we are now is we are actually moving past generative AI. So everybody who thinks ChatGPT is it, ChatGPT is old. And what is now coming is what they call agentic AI. In fact, it's not coming, it's here. So agentic AI is taking the AI experience one step further and saying, instead of me asking it a question and it giving me an answer, I will now ask it to do something and it will do 5, 6, 7 things for me. So let me give you a practical example. Recently, we developed an AI agent for companies from an HR standpoint. So there was a particular company that we were doing some work for, and they do CVs, like they take in quite a bit of CVs. So we developed this solution where they will put out the job application, and then they will get sometimes 100, 200, 300 CVs for one role. It's very difficult to have one human being sitting and going through CV after CV after CV. Inevitably, what will happen is the person will get tired. And imagine you've got a stack of 200 CVs and you've given it to me to review. After a while, I will get tired. So I may review the first 10, 50, 100 in detail, but the more I review, the less I care about it, until sometimes if your CV is number 200 or 250, they don't even bother to look at you because they're tired. So what we did is we built a solution where when all the CVs come in, we will, this AI agent will actually look at the job description. It will extract it, and then it will compare every CV against the job description with the same level of consistency that they would have done on the first CV. And it does it in like minutes. Then that same AI agent will now, for each CV, will do a summary of what are the strengths of that candidate, what are the weaknesses of that candidate, whether they would recommend that the candidate be hired, be considered, be flat out rejected. Then it will take all of that information, put it in a report, rank the candidates from best to worst, send that as an email, that report as an email to the head of HR and anybody else who needs it. So one AI agent has taken multiple actions, multiple steps, and that's the difference between agentic AI and generative AI. So that's just some background for you. Now, how is AI changing the work environment? Let's see. When I used to live in Canada many years ago, one of the things that I learned when I used to work in a marketing department way back then was leaders want employees who add value. It's a truth. It is anywhere you go, leaders are looking for employees who will add value. And when you find a leader finds an employee who is able to bring value, after a while, they stop focusing on who the employee is, and then they focus on other things. Sorry, Nicholas, I'm seeing you raise your hand, so I can't keep checking the chat while I'm talking. So one second, all right, hang on, let me change this. 1 second. Let's check it. Okay. Nicholas, does that work now? Say yes. Okay, he asked me to put it on presentation mode. So yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so as I was saying, that leaders, they want value. They're looking for value in their employees. And when they get that, they tend to stop looking at a lot of the other things. And so practical example, what that means is when I used to be in marketing in Canada, this is like maybe 15, almost 20 years ago. I was in a department that the marketing department alone was 70 people. 7-0. And I was, I think, one of 2 Black people in the department. But what I realized was that because of the value that I was bringing, my race was never an issue. My the fact that I was a woman was never an issue because there was more that they were getting that kind of superseded all of those things. And that's what I mean by that. However, there is something really important that is changing with the introduction of AI, and I'll explain. So, you guys, you've all gone through school, university, and in university and in the workforce, we have the bell curve. And what the bell curve says is that in any situation, there will be like 20% of the people who are really good, 20% of the people who are really bad, and then the other 60% are in the middle. They're average, which means that in the past, an employer would know that really only 20% of their team would be really good, and then they have to kind of settle for everybody else. Now, that is changing. And what is changing because of AI is that employers are realizing that they no longer actually need to accept the bell curve. They don't need to settle for poor performers because AI can now make us way more efficient. So if it can make you faster, if it can make you better, if it can do all of these things, then you shouldn't be a poor performer. And that's the mindset of a lot of employees. So it's really, really important that you understand that that mindset is shifting and it will impact you if you were somebody who was quite comfortable just being okay. Now, the other thing is that the workforce itself is changing. And it's really interesting because as the employers realize that they don't need to settle for people who are just average, the people who are there will now be pushed to become higher performers who are focusing on tasks that bring more value to the organization, higher level tasks and less repetitive tasks. As an employee, you will now also not only be competing with another human being beside you, you will also be competing with AI assistants. So AI assistants are AI tools that will now start taking over a lot of the very manual, mundane tasks, the very repetitive tasks, and doing them for employees. And so if the job that you are doing was highly repetitive, you now are at risk of being replaced by an AI assistant. But not only are there AI assistants, there will also be AI agents. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where AI agents are those that you give them one instruction and they'll do 9, 10, 11, 12 things with very little human supervision. So the insight that I was sharing about how leaders are responding or how leaders are feeling, they still want value from employees. That is not changing. But now what is changing is that wherever they're getting that value from, they will start focusing on that and less about who you are, even to the extent that you may not be human. If they're getting more value from AI, in some cases, not every case, in some cases, that's where they will focus. So it really is a wake-up call for everyone and something that we need to look at. Now, with change comes opportunity. And that's how I want everybody to be looking at this. Yes, I'm sharing some scary things along the way, and it's only to keep your eyes open. But it doesn't mean the world is coming to an end, because where we are seeing change, there's also tremendous opportunity. So we've got statistics are showing that in the next 5 years, by 2030, about 9 million jobs will likely be lost to AI. However, and 11 million jobs are expected to be created to meet this new demand. So again, on one hand, you have not so good news, but on the other hand, you have better news. And it's how you manage that change that will make all the difference in the world. So what roles are at risk? The roles that are at risk are those, as I mentioned, that are routine, rule-based, data-driven. Examples are data entry roles, admin support roles, data analysis, simple data analysis. Those roles are easy to replicate with AI. That's one set of jobs that's at risk. Another are roles that can be automated. So, or what I say, design-based. So roles that can be automated or design-based are, you think of your graphic designers, your interior designers, your web developers, your art directors. And some of you on this call may be, people who are very creative and who are developing websites for people and all of that. AI is able to do a lot of that now. So you need to kind of raise your skill set above what AI can do. And we can always talk about that more. But jobs that can be automated are also at risk to AI. And then the last are those that are mundane intellectual labor. So if you think of like paralegals is one example where there's a lot of information, but it's really just to kind of research it and maybe write a paper or write a summary. AI can now do that and do it really well and really quickly. So these are some of the jobs that are at risk. Now, on the opportunity side, the roles that are likely to thrive are roles that require creativity, human intelligence, roles that are more complex problem solving, that demand more. So you look at healthcare. It is, yes, AI is being used there, but it is less likely to replace the nurses and the doctors because you still need that human touch and that human interaction. Coaches, therapists, social workers, so all of these people roles still to a very large degree sit above AI. And AI helps, but AI does not replace. The other group is now new roles that are coming. So when you think about the 11 million, these roles sit in that 11 million new jobs. And so you talk about prompt engineering. And if you don't know what that is, then I'll explain it a bit later. Data scientists, machine learning engineers, AI ethics specialists. Like earlier today, I was at a conference and it was talking all about AI governance and, the ethical side of AI. So there's a role for that. AI customer experience specialists, because as you use AI to engage customers, you need people who can help navigate that. So, as I said, even though there are some jobs that are at risk, there are a whole lot more that are opening up, and we can all take advantage of it. So, what you have to understand is that 1 in 4 workers will be exposed to AI in their career, and it will continue to increase. So you need to stay ahead of it. So that's why I decided, okay, let me put together a little survival guide to kind of say, here are the key things that you need to focus on. And this is really important because it's no longer if AI will happen, if AI is coming, if we will use AI. That's not even a question anymore. It is more about how will we use it? How will we augment ourselves with it? So the conversation we're having today is a how conversation, not an if conversation. And that's really, really important to understand. So the first thing that you need to do if you want to now survive and thrive in this AI world is you have to understand that the job description is changing. What does that mean? It means that as you go along, more and more, you will be expected to use AI to increase your efficiency and to improve your output. That will be a given. You will also be expected to be fluent in AI. So fluent in AI doesn't mean you need to know how to program or to build models, but you will need to know how to use it, which tools to use for which things. So earlier I was talking about the ones that I use for different things. That's what you call being AI fluent. So you understand how to use different tools in different situations. And then you understand when to apply human judgment and how to do that. And I'll give you a really quick example of lack of human judgment. So um, this was about, I think, 2 months ago. Somebody wanted to apply for a job at Aya Data. And so they sent the job application through our LinkedIn inbox. And I hope that person is not on this call. But what the person did was clearly he had gone into ChatGPT and had asked ChatGPT to help write him um, like a cover letter of sorts or an application letter to apply to us. And the output that ChatGPT would have given to him would have did say there, and then it had the brackets, insert company name here, and then my name is this, and then it further down it said insert this thing here. The guy copied and pasted the whole thing, including the instructions from ChatGPT, and sent it to us. Now, if you are doing that, like how? How on earth do you expect anybody to take you seriously? So that's what I mean when I talk about AI fluency and human judgment. It's there's an art to using it, and the art in using it is not copy and paste. That I can promise you. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So number one, understand the new job description. Number two is be a sponge. I don't know how to tell everybody on this call that this is the time you need to be just learning and absorbing and inhaling anything to do with AI, because it is still such a new environment that even a little bit of learning puts you ahead of a whole lot of people. So the more you learn, the more advantage you are building for yourself. And what you will realize is many employers still are very nervous about using AI. A lot of staff don't know how to use it. And there will come a time where they're going to require that every employee comes with AI fluency. That's one. There will also come the time where employers will wake up and realize that, hey, we need to get going. And they will now start looking at who knows enough about it that they can actually help us and give us advice. You need to position yourself for that. And that's what I mean by being a sponge. Use this time to learn and learn and learn and learn and learn. Next, upskill or risk irrelevance. Now, I've put two pictures here, and the first picture on this side is a YouTube video, and I like this guy very much, but there are a number of different people I watch. But the whole point is, guys, please, immediately after this session, go and enlist yourselves and enroll in the University of YouTube. There is so much information there that you can learn for free, even before you get to the Coursera's or the Udemy's to start paying for things. There's a ton of information. What I would recommend that you do is, if you are going on YouTube, I would do maybe like 3 categories of videos. So the first category, and this is what I personally did, so I'm just telling you what I've done over like the last year and a bit. The first category of videos that I watch are videos with like the leaders in the AI space talking about what trends are coming, like what is happening at a very high level. So if you listen to talks from people like Andrew Ng, Sam Altman. You have, there are a lot of them, but I would just go in and search. But and you can even search by topic. If you don't know the person, you can literally search, type in trends for in AI for 2026. Start there. And then from there, you'll just keep watching more videos, more videos, more videos. So I would start with trends and what leaders are saying as one area. Then the second area that I would look into is agentic AI, and I would start watching videos around that because agentic AI is leveling the playing field for everyone, where literally all of us on this call could actually start building AI agents. And so there are so many videos that show you how to do it. Even if you don't build them for yourselves, it is really important to know, understand how they work, what goes into it, and then look at that. So YouTube, definitely start there. Then another site that I would recommend is called Maven. And these slides will go out to you after. So the link is here. You can see it, but I'll share it after so that Nicholas or whoever is on the team can share it with all of you. Maven is a platform. It's like Udemy and Coursera. They have a lot of courses, not only about AI, but through this platform, they have a lot of AI courses where people come and they charge $800, $2,000 for a course. Now, I'm not telling you to go and do an $800 course or a $2,000 course. But what Maven does that's really cool, which is why I put it here, is that almost like a bit of a community service or corporate social responsibility. They let all the people who are selling paid courses on Maven offer like bite-sized versions of their courses for free. And so that's what they call lightning lessons. So you tend to find that a lot of these, it's by force. These instructors have to offer free, like bonus versions of their course. So it's a great, great resource. If you look up lightning lessons, and they have them almost every day. They're like webinars. Some are 1 hour, some are an hour and a half, 2 hours. But start with these two and you'll be much, much further along. All right. Then the fourth thing is develop your AI toolkit. So this is kind of what we're talking about in the chat before we officially started. This is just a list of some of the tools that can be used for different things. I don't personally use all of them, but I took recommendations from people that I know. So these are different tools. Based on the kind of work I do, the tools I use, as I said, I use ChatGPT, not a lot, probably the least out of all three. But I use ChatGPT, I use Claude, I use Perplexity, I use Fireflies when it's necessary. I personally don't use the image generation ads yet, the image generation ones yet, just because all the ones that I see, you can still tell that they're AI generated. So I think maybe I'm behind everybody else on image generation. But a good friend of mine, she uses Opus clips for videos, and it's really, really helpful. And what I've seen her do with it, for example, is especially those of you who like to create content, she will do 30 minutes of a recording, and Opus clips actually will go through, pick out sound bites and create the sound bites for her and give her like multiple videos. So, and it's been really, really good for her because she shares it on Instagram and does very, very well with it. So I recommend that, even though I haven't used it personally. So you don't need to use every tool, but know some tools and be able to say, this is your basket of tools, whatever that may be, because that helps with your AI fluency. Then number 5, be irreplaceable instead of afraid. So focus on what will make you valuable, what will make you invaluable to the company that you are working for or to whatever setting you are in, rather than taking the mindset that AI is here to take my job and AI one day will all be robots. No, we won't. So don't be afraid. Focus on how can I take advantage of this and how can I lean in and really use it to my advantage. You will have such a head start. So my last bit is I mentioned prompt engineering as something that everybody should really get a handle on. And the reason that is necessary is, the same thing. You garbage in, garbage out. We go into Chat GPT and we type one sentence. And so a lot of the times the feedback we get or the responses we get are okay, but they're mediocre. They're not that great. And so it's one of the things you will want to learn how to do is to be able to prompt AI properly. Now, I have a secret for you that I'll tell you in like 2 minutes. But what I wanted to do was, okay, so I've explained the prompt, the AI will only be as good as the prompt that you give it. Prompting, put your question in, whatever it is that you want the AI to do for you in order to get a certain reaction, to get a certain response. That's what prompting is. So if you hear people talking about prompt engineering or all of that, it's not complicated. It's the same thing. Put in a message about where should I go when I go to TAC-Ready. That's prompting. That's it. So, but you want to get really good at it, especially in the work setting. You'll find that it has so much value to it. So what I wanted to give you, and I'll just skim through it because you'll have the slides anyway. There are lots of different ways you can develop your prompts, but I just wanted to show a few of them just as an example. So one method of doing a good prompt is the tag method. So T is for task, A is for action, G is for goal. So in this case, you would first put in, here's the task or the job, the activity that you want the AI to do. For example, you want it to craft a series of Instagram posts that boost customer interaction. So you give it the task first. Then you tell it the action. So, all right, I want to do a series of Instagram posts that boost customer interactions. So I want you, the AI, to now use high-end engagement content. So you're telling it what you want it to do. So I want you to use high-end engagement content like polls, stories, and challenges. And then you give it the goal, which is now what you want the outcome of that to be. So task, action, goal. That's one way you can go about it. Another way is the BAB. So you outline what the current situation or problem is, what your desired future outcome is, and then you tell AI what you want it to do to help you get from current to future. So that's another method. Then the third one is RTF. So you give it a role. So you tell the AI you're a recruiter from an HR firm that specializes in doing whatever it does. And then you tell it what you want it to accomplish. So, I need you to do A, B, C. And then you also tell it the format of the output. So how you want it to give you the information. The reason I'm giving you different options is that depending on the scenario, one option or one method may be better than another. And then the fourth one is care. So you give it the context. And there are examples for all of these that you can look at when you have time. But you give it the context, you tell it what action it should take, you tell it what the result is that you are looking for, and then you also give it an example of what you would like. And this is actually a really good method because sometimes, depending on what it is that you wanted to write or create, if you have an example and or a certain format you wanted to follow, it helps to give that to the AI as well. So between now and the end of the year, what should you do? My recommendation is 3 things. 1, look at your current role. Look at your current way of doing things. If you're in school, look at how you are doing your work. If you're in the workplace, look at how you're doing your work. And think through and ask yourself, what could you use AI to do better? That's your first few weeks. Think about that. Then in your next month, because we only have 3 months left for the year. So October, audit yourself, audit your role. November, master one AI tool. Like whatever it is that you use, go deeper and develop mastery in it. And you can go back to YouTube and find almost anything that you need there to do that. So month 2, master one AI tool. And then month 3, propose. So if you are working or you are in school, it doesn't matter. Find a way to figure out how you can use AI to improve where you work or where you are studying, and let somebody know, propose it. Because as I'm saying, most people are still scared of AI, but it's here to stay. So if you can get a handle on it and begin to tell your boss or those above you, hey, I've seen an opportunity to use AI to improve, it will be well. It will be well with you. So AI is not here to replace you. There's a saying that the humans who use AI will replace those that don't. I will modify it slightly to say the humans who use AI will dominate those who don't. So thank you so much for your time. We are now done with the presentation, and I am more than happy to take questions. So what I'm gonna do is you can put your questions in the chat as one option. Okay, I have not been checking the chat, so honestly, hold on. Let me stop sharing. Okay, and then let me see if I can now. Okay, so it looks like there are a number of questions in the chat. So let me try and answer the ones that I can. All right. So somebody said, am I saying that we should quit using ChatGPT? No, I am not saying you should quit using ChatGPT, but you should know what it is good for. You should know its strengths and its weaknesses. So let me give you a practical example. Me, Gillian, personally, one of the things I love to do, I love Excel, I love building dashboards, that kind of thing. I like working with formulas. I tried using ChatGPT for that. And then what I realized is that it would be giving me the formulas. And then after a while, it starts to get stuck and it starts giving me these overly complex formulas. And it just like, it gets stuck in this vicious cycle. So I moved to Claude and I realized that Claude would give me like very simple formulas, like straight, no long talking, for want of a better word. And so that my point is, so what I've learned is if I want to write an ad, I use ChatGPT. If I want to work with Excel, I use Claude. If I want to write an article that needs to be referenced and needs to have some level of credibility, I use Perplexity. I do not use ChatGPT for that. So that's what I mean when I say have your toolkit and know which ones work well. All right, let me see. Okay, that was a screen. So somebody made a comment about, I think predictive AI is mostly used in the medical field to predict. It's used in a lot of scenarios, but even the medical field is using generative AI as well, except that they have to be way more careful with it because people's lives are on the line. But some of the work that we do at Aya Data, for example, is, you can use AI, and they're using it in the medical fields to even detect certain diseases earlier than human doctors could. So, and that's still within the generative AI space, except that when the AI does detect that disease, a human will then come in and verify, but it just creates an alert earlier. So the generative AI is also being used, and yes. Okay, all right. So then, okay, somebody's phone battery was about to die. I hope he made it home. Okay, so somebody is saying, I hope measures are being put in place to curb this problem of job displacement in the near future. Let me be honest with you. You need to take it into your own hands if you do not want to be displaced. That's the only measure that can be taken. So, because, okay, let me give you all a practical example. There's a company in the US called, okay, there's Zapier, but that's not the one. Spotify. Let me use the Spotify example. So in April of this year, there's a company called Spotify. The CEO sent a memo to staff. And of course, the memo got leaked to the news, and it was all over the news. You can actually Google it, and you'll find it online. But what he said in the memo is that he was essentially bringing new rules into the company where every staff member was now going to be expected to be AI fluent, meaning you should know how to use AI and you should know how to use it in your role. That was number one. There were, I think, 3 or 4 things that he said. The second thing that he said is that from a performance management standpoint, everybody would now be evaluated on how they are using AI to help drive the business from the senior executives down. That was the second thing. The third thing that he said was there would be no any department that wanted to make a request for either additional staff or additional resources would first have to prove that whatever they were requesting or whoever they were requesting to be added to their team, AI could not do that thing first. That would be the only way they would now get it. My point is, to Prince, who raised this point, is that this is the way the world is going. So there is anybody who is sitting down and waiting for someone to protect them will be on the losing end. Everybody that is in this call needs to take it upon themselves to learn. And that's why I tried to give you so many resources and point you in so many directions, because it will be on you. It's not a nice thing to hear, but that's the truth. Because the world is not waiting. The employers are not waiting. And if you sit and wait for somebody to hold your hand, they won't, and you'll get left behind. So really, really, guys, take it seriously and take it up. All right. Then, okay. All right. Then somebody was asking about data analytics. Yes, please. Data science, data analytics is a thing. It is a new emerging field, and there is demand for it. So do your research, and it's what you'll find is that some universities are beginning to offer it, but a lot of these courses look for they have, even in Ghana, they have like innovation hubs and some of these things that offer short courses in data science, try and start with those. And then try and learn. If you like if you're interested in that kind of thing. But you don't have to be a data scientist to succeed when it comes to AI. I just want to let everybody know that it's not by force that now everybody should go and become a data scientist. No. If you have a love for that kind of thing, then by all means, do explore it. And all of this information is available on the internet. Okay, so I think somebody was very nice to provide a summary. Okay, thank you. All right, somebody else had battery issues. Okay, and then somebody wanted me to list the AI tools, I think. Okay, the AI tools. I've mentioned them, but they're in the presentation, so you will get the slides. Yes, you will get the video to watch it again. Looking ahead, what role do you think governments and institutions should play in bridging the digital gap so that African youth can compete globally? So the government has a lot of work to do. The educational institutions have a lot of work to do because as much as I'm telling you, you need to own it and learn, the government and the universities and the corporates still also need to create the resources and create the platforms to really make it more accessible. So, as much as we're talking about AI, there are certain limitations that we have in countries like Ghana. One of the limitations that we have is data, where AI feeds off data. But in Ghana, we don't, and in many of the African countries, because it's not only Ghanaians that are online, but many of us, many companies don't have good data. Now, as I keep saying, for every problem, there's an opportunity. One of the opportunities that I am sharing here is a lot of the AI models. So if you take ChatGPT, you take Claude, you take Perplexity, you take any of these big models, they are primarily trained on Western data, which means that there are limitations to the level of accuracy when you start to apply it to African settings. We lack data on Africa. There's an opportunity to create data for Africa and sell it. Literally, guys, I'm serious. So let me give you a practical example again. There was a company that approached us, I think it was earlier this year. And the company is not based in Ghana, but they were looking for video footage of Ghanaians, and I think there was one other African country that they wanted to. But they wanted just people taking selfie videos, doing certain movements, saying certain words, but people of different complexions so that they could use it to train their AI models. Now, what's the opportunity? The opportunity is there's so much data that is needed that I deeply believe that people can begin to create their data, their own data sets, and make them available for sale. Because the big companies in America and the UK don't have access to the data here. They lack access to data with people of our skin color. So if you have AI that must detect something, detect a mark or something on dark skin, it will struggle because it doesn't have enough data with people with dark skin and of various shades of black skin. So guys, there's opportunity. That's what I want you to keep seeing. So the government just needs to create the platforms and the outlets. But even if they are slow, you can still move ahead. That's the message. Don't wait on them. But yes, they do have a role to play. Slides will be shared, yes. Okay, so All right, so Joshua is asking, how can we suggest an AI tool or agent to our workplace without being laid off? I mean, now you have an AI tool, why would the HR keep you there again? Love the question, Joshua, and really, really good question, because let's take the HR scenario. You know, in fact, let me use an example of the head of HR at Aya Data, where we work. He was taking, so this same AI agent that we built to screen CVs, he personally was having to screen CVs when they come in. Sometimes, depending on the role that we put out, we may get easily 150 or 200 CVs. Now, it takes him per CV roughly about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the kind of role and the complexity of the CV. So imagine now you're getting 200 CVs, each one is taking you 10 minutes. That's a lot of time. So he was finding that anytime we're doing recruitment, he's wasting so much time just going through CV after CV after CV. The solution that we developed was able to go through that same amount of CVs, give him an initial review of all of the CVs ranked with recommendations in 10 minutes. No, it was less than 10 minutes. Suddenly, what used to take him more than a week was done in under 15 minutes. So you freed him up to do other things in his job that is more meaningful. Suddenly, you will become a star because you've just helped him. And that's what, when I said leaders like people who help them get results and add value, that's what I mean. So if you build AI agents that are helping to solve real problems, you stand to gain more than you stand to lose. All right, so love the question. And AI is not taking our jobs. It will take some. It will take some, but those are the ones that are very manual. And who of you went to school to do only manual work anyway? So let AI take those jobs and you guys focus on adding value at a higher level. All right. Thank you very much, Kadijatu. I'm not sure I pronounced it correctly. Then another question, what do you suggest we use more often? That's very helpful. Okay, yes, 90-day plan. I suggest all of you really do take it up. Thank you, you're welcome. How do we take advantage and venture into AI entrepreneurship? All right. Again, one of the benefits of agentic AI in particular is that for me, it is leveling the playing field. When I say that, what I mean is you don't need a PhD to build an AI agent. You don't need a master's or even a degree to build an AI agent. You literally just need to start playing around with it, getting a handle on it. And the beauty will be in you being able to solve a problem. So if you want to go into AI entrepreneurship, it is not about building some AI tool or AI agent and then hoping that people will come to you. No. The quickest way to success is find somebody with a problem and build an AI agent that solves that problem. Then you will realize that it's very likely that many other people have that same problem. That's how you do it. For you as well, anybody who is interested in AI entrepreneurship, I would also recommend that on YouTube, there is this channel called Y Combinator. Y, the letter Y. And let me put it in the chat. Y Combinator. And so the reason why I'm mentioning Y Combinator, I just lost where I was in the questions. Okay. So Y Combinator is an incubator for startups, and they only focus on startups that they believe have the potential to become like billion-dollar startups. But they do a lot of talks about what they look for in these startups, things that you should look out for, things that you should try and avoid. And so it's really good information. It's not about you applying to them necessarily, but they give a lot of really good insights of all the businesses that they have helped that I think is really good for you. So if you want AI entrepreneurship, listen to them. In my field of tech, software development, what resources can I use to broaden my horizon? I would say, there are different ways that you can go. And I was saying the same thing to someone earlier today, that AI has different paths that you can take. So if you like the science side of it, then you can pursue like data science or machine learning, engineer, and work on building the models. If you like that side of it. If you like front-end development side. So if you are somebody who develops websites, let's say, please, my advice is do not be like an ostrich and stick your head in the sand and say that you won't use any AI tools. My advice is learn, even if you're a web developer, learn to use tools like Lovable that now will speed up how quickly you can develop websites. Because, guys, very soon, those of you who develop websites and you use WordPress, I promise you, WordPress is going to get eaten by AI. So if you only limit yourself to building WordPress websites and you don't want to start using some of the AI tools to help strengthen your offering, you'll be in trouble. So try and really spread it out. But Samuel, I would say it would depend on what you like. But I am pushing you back to start listening to watching different videos on YouTube and kind of see what resonates with you most and what new thing kind of piques your interest, and then look at following that path. Um, all right. So the AI tools for voiceovers, videos, there were a couple on the slide. I haven't personally tested them, but start with those. So when you get the slide, look for the slide that says AI toolkit. And then there's a section, I think, that has videos. So just start looking with those solutions and then broaden from there. Good. So Catherine raises a point and says, as a programmer, we also have AI tools, but I don't think we should rely solely on AI. You are 1,000 times correct. AI is to help you. It is not to replace what you do or what you know. So you use AI to do things quicker and better and do more things than you used to be able to do. But you still need to do the human checks. And you can't take away the human being from it. So don't rely solely on AI. Where, as I said, don't let it be like a copy paste thing. Like just use it, but always check it. Because when you least expect it, it will embarrass you by giving wrong information. And you don't want to be in a situation where you thought it sounded so good that you thought it was right, only to get to a place where people are calling you out on it because what you've done or said is incorrect. Okay, AI tools for video editing, check my slides. Okay, a question about having a social sciences or environmental science background. What specific recommendations would I give? It's the same I'm giving to everybody, meaning that your ability to leverage AI and take advantage of it does not depend on your background. It is more where you see the opportunities. So You can use it to create content. You can use it to help code where people never used to be able to code. Literally, guys, me, Gillian, I coded a whole website this past week, which I built on Lovable, but I engaged with Claude to help me build the code, to develop the code to use it. I did it. I don't have a coding background. So my point is that it doesn't matter what your background is. Just start reading and listening and then see what you begin to feel like, hey, this part is more interesting than this part. Me, I have no desire to do data science because I know what I'm interested in, but somebody else might. So just start watching and learning, and then I think you'll see what you really like doing. All right. I'm going through as quickly as possible because we'll finish in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 7:30 sharp, we'll finish. Okay, what are all the AI tools' limitations compared to human intelligence? I would say the biggest limitation of AI is that it lacks context. So, and by that, what I mean is, you could ask AI about what is the best watch joint in Accra, but it doesn't have context that you would have from knowing which corner to go to and what makes it special and who gives more, who may give you an extra egg or who may give you more noodles or whatever. So AI is only as good as the information that people put in. You have a lived experience, which AI does not have. So you have that additional context. And so I would always say that AI's biggest limitation is a lack of context and the dependency on getting context from people, which then comes back to the point of if people give it bad context, then it becomes bad AI. And so that's the biggest limitation for me. Okay, what initiatives can be done or recommended to enhance Africa's or different countries' economy, entrepreneurship, and problem solving? Ooh, that's a loaded one. Through AI. Guys, I would say initiative-wise, look at the needs when it comes to AI is one, data collection. There are many companies who would like to use AI, but they don't have enough data. There's an opportunity for you to help companies collect data. That's one. I would also say data curation, and let me explain that one. Different from collection. So curation is there are companies who have data, but it's all over the place. Some is in Excel, some is on paper, all of these things. And somebody needs to help them clean it up and structure it so that it can even be used to train the AI. That's another opportunity area. And all of these are big, big gaps in Africa because our data is terrible. Like we've been using those foolscap notebooks forever. So there's the opportunity to collect, there's the opportunity to clean data, there is the opportunity to create African data sets to provide to both people in Africa and those outside. So I think, and then there's also the better you get, you can also begin to train, to teach, because there's also the need for that as well. So I think there's so many opportunities. I hope I'm answering your question, but I just see a lot of opportunities for that. What are the negative impacts that most tools bring to our life? I would say, again, today, sorry, I was at a conference all day, but I would say with AI, lazy people get lazier. Those who were forward thinking and liked to find ways to do things get better with AI. That's so if you're somebody who was like just barely kind of scraping by, AI will make you lazier and it will show. It will show. So That would be the most negative thing, that people just begin to stop thinking and stop doing. Are there any safeguards in place to prevent any misinformation of all the AI tools? Not as many as there should be. The conference that I was at today, a lot of it was around AI governance and regulation. So there was a Bank of Ghana, there were people from Bank of Ghana, there were different people from the industry and some outside of Ghana. And so the government is beginning to put some like safeguards and regulations in place, but we're still not there yet. It's a lot of it is very formative. And so I would say maybe within the next 12 months, we will see way more safeguards than we have now. But right now, it's almost like up to the individual developers or creators to put in their safeguards, but nothing at an umbrella level yet. Okay. Uh, Somebody's asking, could I kindly talk about how AI will impact public policy field in the near future? Ooh, and how AI can be leveraged in this career field. Oh, that one has knocked me out of my depth. I'm not a big public policy person. But if I was to wager a very high level guess, the way I would see AI kind of impacting this is, one, I think it will help. I feel like it will help us when it comes to both creating. So I think it will help when it comes to creating policy, to when it comes to updating policy. And I may be talking at a very high level because I don't fully understand the nuances of it. But on the surface, um, I think a lot of our policies are very outdated or very slow to be updated. With AI, where I see an opportunity, even within the public policy space, that's very heavy in terms of knowledge. So one of the things that as they're creating AI agents now, one of the things that an AI agent has in the background is what they call a knowledge base. And so with the knowledge base, 7:25. Okay. With the knowledge base, essentially what it does is it allows so you can engage, you can put into that knowledge base information about a particular topic area. And then you can tell the AI that when you're answering a question, or when you're writing a paper, or when you're doing research, look at this block of information. So I think there's an opportunity in relation to public policy to have agents that can engage with a lot of data that is already there, and can really have then people, both consumers like regular citizens, engaging with that data in a controlled environment, and also people on the back end, the policy side, engaging with that data and being able to access it way more quickly, taking it out of paper and books and everything. But this is not my area of strength. So to be very honest, I would have to do a bit more research around it. So if I didn't give you the full answer, forgive me. Okay. As a researcher, how do you use AI to assess research assignments in order to come out with authentic outcome? Okay. Well, I'm not sure if you're asking this in the capacity of like from a lecturer, a teacher standpoint, or from a student standpoint. So it would be really helpful to understand that a bit more. What do you research assignments? Okay, I'm not really clear on what you're asking. So maybe just ask it again quickly and then I'll come back to it. All right. What AI tools can an agricultural student be using to create content without exaggerating? All right. For that one, I would point you to Ayadata's website. We have an AI powered agricultural tool that can give you some ideas for how AI can be used in agriculture. It's called iAgrow. So start with that and then find me on LinkedIn if you still have a question, and then I can ask it after that. Okay, then somebody's asking about students. Are students welcome to do internships at Ayadata? So yes, but there are certain times that we do intakes for internships. So what I would recommend that you do is send your CV to let me put it in the chat. Human resources at ayadata.ai for internships. But please note that it's only when they're ready to do the intake, they will go through, and then if they are interested in you or your CV, then they will reach out to you. Okay. My LinkedIn username, just look for Gillian Hammah. I think Dr. Gillian Hammah. Yeah, you should find me there. Then, okay, how can AI support engineering students when it comes to drawing? My advice for that one, please find me on LinkedIn, reach out to me, let me know what kind of engineering you're interested in doing. My husband is an engineer who uses AI all the time in his work as he builds models and all of those things. So ask me, I'll ask him, and I'll get you back the answer. All right. So I think it is 7:29. So I think we are at the end. Yeah, I think I've come to, okay. As a lecturer handling students, how do you use AI to assess research assignments? Okay, Danielle, if you or the person who is asking this question, I'm not sure if you're asking it for yourself or for someone else, please have them reach out to me on LinkedIn because I have a suggestion for them. But I do want to respect everybody's time and let them go home. So Samuel, I'll have to look into social listening. I'm not sure entirely. So let me know. Let me know. Let me know. So guys, it's 7:30. Thank you so much. I hope you all found this useful. And the slides will be shared. I'll share it with the team members, and then they'll share it with you. You can find me on LinkedIn, reach out. I will do my best to answer your questions as and when, but please give me like a day or two to answer your questions. Don't expect an immediate answer because I may not always be able to do that. So just give me like a little bit of room to do that. So thank you so much. Really, really good to have you. Thank you for all the questions, all the engagement, and I hope we will do this again soon. So take care. Bye all. Woo!